Good morning and welcome to Let's Have the Conversation. Today we are here with Sabr Lyon and we will be discussing healing epigenetic and spiritual trauma of white ancestors. So, hey, Sabr, talk to me. This is exciting. I
Hey.
love it.
Yes, I love the concept of epigenetics and how we carry with us our ancestors so clearly. It's so beautiful that science is proving it.
I know. It's like they're finally catching up to the spiritual community, and we have been sitting here for generations trying to get to the point of healing, and maybe now people will believe it because science. But for those who are not aware, would you like to give a clear description of what
Sure.
epigenetics are?
Yeah, so epigenetics are kind of like the dust on the DNA. So throughout the DNA, there are these little pieces that give us kind of a history of our blood lineage and theories behind it. It's a really new science. It's like 15 years old. And the theories behind it are when people are in utero, um, people with ovaries have every egg that they're ever going to have. So when my mother was in my grandmother's body, I was in my grandmother's body as an egg. And so, at the very least, even though science has proven that we've at least got 10 generations of lineage within our DNA, um, the very least, any stress that my grandmother experienced, my mother got that in utero, and I also got that in utero, and from there. So
Absolutely. And though it's a new science, 15 years or so, like you said, I mean, even if you go to the Bible and they talk about generational curses, these are the things that you're talking about. And I only say the Bible, not saying that there's nothing that precedes that because I happen to just grow up like Catholic. So, you kind of, along with my Catholic guilt that I must mention that.
yes.
It's just something in America we understand, right? As like the basis of our foundation is puritanical
Yes.
Christianity. So, like, those things really do. Like, it's encoded in our DNA, like eye color, hair texture, all of those things is just a part of our makeup, those traumas, those everything
Yes.
that they were going through starts becoming who you actually are. So though you're removed from those generations and their actions, it's still very much a part of you and within you. So healing that is super necessary. I agree.
Yeah. And they have also been proving that in healing these pieces in ourselves, it actually changes our DNA. So that's just another layer in
I
which we
know.
do heal our ancestors.
Right. You heal your ancestors. And what's even more so, you heal your future lineage.
Yes.
It's like that's like doing the shadow work, like that's actually what I specialize in, is shadow work. Doing it on yourself is literally that really cool meme that was like, it ran through my family and it stops here, and people like share this, but it's like, no, you literally have that power. Like it did, and it can stop with you, and you could heal the past and the future and yourself because it's all happening at the same time. Like,
Yes.
and American individualism has kind of disconnected us from our ancestors, like, or from other people groups, even, right? Like, no, no, I am me. I have nothing to do with that. And it's like, no, you are a culmination of all of them. You have everything to do with that, good, bad, and indifferent, because there's some great things that have come from very horrible people also. So we have to kind of see the total picture and total vision of who a person is. So,
Yes, that's why I hate the good bad dichotomy.
right. And that is how I discovered you. Like, I'm on TikTok, minding my TikTok big business. And I'm like, who is this human? I must know them now. I didn't even scroll any more of your videos before I messaged you and was like, would you please check out my podcast? And like, would you be interested? Because that is like what I've been railing against forever, is
Mhm.
releasing all binaries and constructs. The prison that
Yes.
you create for another person is one that you create for yourself. So if we can only see good and bad, there's like,
Mm.
that's like really a dehumanizing
Limiting.
way. right? Like I've not always been a great person, or definitely not who I am now, you know. And I joke when people tell me, "Oh, you're so," I'm like, I'm a terrible person. I'm terrible. Like I
Oh,
have moments where I am absolutely terrible. I think terrible thoughts. I say terrible things, and that's okay. That's I'm a human, you know, and I'll fix it.
yeah,
What I know now is not what I knew 10 years ago, and maybe some of this will be wrong 10 years from now. So, you know,
yeah,
space.
inevitably.
Right. If you're choosing growth, let's say that.
Facts.
If you're choosing
Yes.
growth. So I have a set of questions, and usually I just
Mhm.
have like, okay, it's a flow, but your answers were so precise that I want to ask them very clearly.
Sure
So
thing.
then you can just go off on that. So my first question was, in your own words, describe or define your podcast topic.
Okay, so as somebody who is a white person in a white supremacist society, um, it's very hard when our ancestral lineage is just filled with so much hate. And so, you know, this is something that I've been very passionate about for years. And this last couple of years, I've finally had friends start asking me, how, as a white person, are you working with ancestors in your practice? And so, um, to be able to name a handful of the methods with which we can unwind this knotted mess, um, it allows for us to become less harmful humans, and ultimately, like, that is kind of my goal in daily life. um, I'm sure I didn't answer quite like I did when I wrote it out, but
No, that's absolutely perfect. Just like I just wanted to kind of like get the idea because this is a really huge thing for me because what people don't recognize in America, and even white people don't recognize in America, is that the foundation of whiteness and race is a construct. It's made up. When they first
Mhm.
came here to colonize, they were not white. That wasn't a thing. They were British. They were French. They were wherever they came from. And they had a culture. They had a language. They listened to music. They ate certain types of food. And when they colonized and then went to war with Britain, and then they were just left here because when the king was like, "Yeah, I'm over it. Okay, fine, you guys won. I don't. It's too much work to be bothered. I can't do keep that piece of land, whatever." Um, they were left like, "Oh, now what? And what does this look like? And who
Mhm.
are we? Because we're cut off from everything." At that point in time, there was no, you weren't going to go to war with the king and then travel back, right?
Right.
You
I
weren't
mean,
going to
I
go back
honestly
and
think
visit
it came
family.
earlier though, right? Like,
I'm sorry,
I
what? I didn't hear
honestly
that.
think it came earlier because when Christianity took over, West Europe, there was tribal culture, there was individual families, and much smaller. It wasn't the European nation at that point, right?
Correct.
And it's very much the same way that Africa was colonized, or that we've colonized Central America, or whatever. It's just that, like we said earlier before you started recording, that other side of genocide truly is continuing and perpetuating that genocide.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, like, in America, they homogenized when they
Yeah.
created race, right? Like, okay, well, you know what? You look like me, you look like me, you look like me, and we need to subjugate some people. So we're going to subjugate the people that don't look like us. And what are those people, right? Because the easiest way to subjugate people is to remove their humanity, right?
Yeah.
It's been proven throughout
Hmm.
history. Any type of group that has been, you know, exposed, I don't even know if that, anybody that has experienced genocide on especially like a huge national level, has they were dehumanized first, right? And with the Jews, they were rats, they were dogs, couldn't trust them. The Irish were scoundrels and they were rats, and like, the Africans were savages, the natives were savages and beasts of men amongst men. Like you had to dehumanize because you can't do that to another human.
No.
So they created and constructed race. So now you have
Mhm.
white people. And anybody that is non-melanated now falls into this category and therefore has divine providence as white. It's wild, right? Like I'm like thinking of the foundations and it's like, wow. And anybody else doesn't
Right.
because they're not us. And that sentiment has carried throughout the world, the anti blackness of it
Mm-hmm.
all, right? Is just
Mm-hmm.
everywhere. You'll see it in caste systems, you'll see it in like reasons why people do many things that they do, is just anti
Mm-hmm.
blackness in its entirety. And I think the fundamental core of that and where the healing would come from, or at least start, is fear,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because really, when you think of white, it is actually the minority, even
Mm-hmm.
amongst the world. If we're
Thanks.
going to just go in context of melanated and non melanated people are the minority. And fear is a hell of a motivator.
Yeah.
So it's like the cool kids in high school of 3,000, like five kids are running the high school and setting the tone. And that to me is white culture. It's like,
Thanks. Colonizers will colonize.
right. And the reason for the colonization is the loss of their own connection to whoever they were. So
Mm-hmm.
ancestral healing is something that is super duper needed because it's what's for me is keeping us in this loop,
Yes.
right? Like
Yes.
just constantly over and over again colonizing, taking from something else, taking from someone else, appropriation, all the things that we complain about really
Mm-hmm.
comes from that foundation of you're lost. And if you connect to who you once were, you won't have the need, right? Like
Right. Yeah.
just won't. Like I am a mixed race woman. I'm Irish and black. I practice both. I practice hoodoo as a descendant of slaves and I practice Celtic magic
Mm.
because those are mine.
Right.
I don't jump in and start doing Romany stuff because I'm not Romany. Like, but I recognize that,
Right.
like, it's like the most simple concept to me. But I recognize that that's because I have an ethnicity and a culture to
Mhm.
cling to, and white America doesn't have that culture
Right.
to cling to.
Yeah.
So, like, that leads me into like asking more so, like, in regards to this healing work with epigenetics, where do you, as a white person
Mhm.
in this world, begin? How do you help others? Where do they start?
Right. It's tricky. It really depends on the person, right? Like it's all individualized. Um, for myself, the magic that I work with, the spiritual work that I do, um, it's taken me many, many years to come to the place that I'm at now, obviously, like as with everything, but
Same, yeah.
um, you know, learning, okay, these things that the media says, oh, this is witchcraft or this is like whatever. And it's like, oh, this is all cultural appropriation. Like the day that I learned that, I think as a teenager, I was like, okay, scratch all the things. Um,
All the
I
things.
was invited in for 5 to 8 years, learning kind of from a Hawaiian perspective.
Hmm.
Um, I don't claim that that is not a piece of my practice, but from being gifted and privileged the opportunity to step in, dip my toes in a little bit by my teachers, my kumus, um, I have been given this opportunity to understand that if I sit and pray about it, the methods will then be given to me.
I agree.
So one of my favorite protection techniques for myself is to wrap myself in a crystalline web of transmutational light. That was literally given to me in meditation. I had a terrible migraine, was rocking with the pain, and said, please, I need help, and just called for help. And to it was like a layer of things, right? So first it was, okay, I have to call my soul into my body. And I'd been doing that since I was a teenager, thanks to teachers. I've been given such amazing mentors in my life. Like,
Same.
just so grateful. So calling my body, myself into my body, and then realizing, oh, I need to call myself into every space in between the cells, every organism that is not technically me, fully filling out this vessel, understanding that my soul is bigger than this flesh vessel. And
Right.
so that pain that is not mine, that it is coming through me, to create that webbing of separation, so my soul outside of this vessel can hold that pain that needs to be held until it's ready to be released. And from there, it's just transmutational, right? So I use it for all sorts of things. I surround my house in it. When I work on people, I ask for permission to surround them in it. My wife and I very much have moments where, like, okay, we're having a heated conversation. Let's take a moment, put up some mirrors so that we receive the energy we're giving out instead of each other's energy, and so that we can transmute this. So coming to these methods, it's genuinely been either people stepping in at just the right time, and kind of being like, oh, like, that grounding technique never works for me either. Like, I can't root myself. If I just root myself, it doesn't work. Like, I am flying. Well, I live in spirit and in earth at the same time in equal amounts. I have to grow my limbs, or I'm just gonna to fly away, right?
Right.
And so I just kind of have collected things and been like, okay, these are things that I can share. These are things that I can't share. These are things I'm allowed to use, things I'm not allowed to use, that kind of thing. So my magic is very simple, and it's mostly prayer.
I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, prayer is amazing because it's time with self, and you do have to get into your body, right? Like, in a real way, you have to take up space. And I think that what is not often discussed is, I know for white people, they see white women and femmes and they take up all the space. And I'm like, they do within our spaces, but within their own spaces, they take up zero space. Like, in their homes, they're not taking up space. In their practices, they're not taking up space, right? And why we get so exhausted with them is because then they leave that space and they're everywhere else taking up space. And so I find that ancestral healing will allow them to empower themselves,
Mm-hmm.
because there is a lack of empowerment within the white community aside from colonizing, right? Like, the power that comes from whiteness is the taking of something else.
Mm-hmm.
When if that healing was done, you would take back what's yours. Like, that's the difference. Like, that to me is the beauty of healing and releasing the shame. I'm going to take back what was mine. And for me, as a descendant of slaves, there's shame in that too, right? Like, I had to really, like, working with my ancestors that were actually captured people, I realized they're more than just slaves, right? And it's like, it was an insane thought to me that I never thought that thought before.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wow, my whole life I've just been like, well, they were slaves. And I'm like, and when they came to me and spoke, and they were like, how dare you diminish us to just this one capacity of our lives? We were
Yeah.
mothers, we were fathers, brothers, sisters, uncles. We sang, we danced, we loved, we cried, we were dynamic humans. And like, that gut punch for me was like, oh my God, how I want to cry literally, like, right now, how limiting I have made them, my own ancestors, how powerless I spoke about them instead of thinking of them as these dynamic beings who, even in the worst human conditions, they did find joy. They did find love. They did find all of those things in their small communities amongst their own people. They love their children no different than I do. And they dealt with the pain and the grief of losing their children and all of the horrors that came along with them. But what I mostly got from that meditation was, and from consistent ones, was they no longer wanted to be thought of as just slaves.
Mm-hmm.
And because I am also biracial, I always think about things from that other side. It's because though I fully identify with being Irish and correct people immediately, like, no, I'm not white, I'm Irish. Like, I need you to get that straight because that comes with an entire culture. I recognize in America, like, it steals your identity no matter who you are.
Right.
So when the Irish became white, like somewhere in the 60s, 70s, that stripped that culture. And then I realized it's also asking of white people to only see their ancestors as enslavers and
Mm,
not seeing the dynamics of all of them as well. And that is blocking the direct work with white people and
mm,
their ancestors. No,
mm-hmm,
we have shame and guilt, and we are shutting and cutting off
mm-hmm.
our ancestors. They were colonizers, they are abused people, and that's it. And though that's also true, it is not the totality of who they are.
Right.
And if you reach into the human part of them, there's some healing there. There's
Yeah.
some DNA, like you said, recoding that can be done. It won't change
Mm-hmm.
any actions, but it damn sure will change how you show up in the world. And that makes a major difference to
Mm-hmm.
everybody. Like you said, you will become less harmful if you know where you came from,
Yeah.
what you're made of in a total dynamic. And it's not to erase any of the horrors, right? Like, just like me saying that they weren't just slaves doesn't erase anything that they went through. It
No.
just shows that these people are all dynamic.
Right.
And so many lived truths are happening at the same time. And if we want to move energetically to the next space and get to ascension, because this timeline is frankly draining me. Like, I'm like, can we
Yes.
move? We have to do this healing.
Yes.
Um, yeah, we have to do this healing.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people have been asking recently, like, what is white culture? And in my mind, white culture is silence and violent homogenization of everything. And when we interject nuance and when we allow for those multiple layers and we allow for the humanness of everything, like you said earlier, like it really does start to unwind. That guilt and shame bit, though, is so true because part of this healing is literally reprogramming our brains to say different words.
Yes.
And I'm somebody who has like a lot of tabs open in my brain at all times. Like right now, there is somebody screaming in the back of my head, just primal
That's
screaming.
okay. I got a few things going on too.
You know, but
Definitely. I'm
those
like,
like,
oh, I'm thinking about a few different things at the
yeah.
same time. I understand. My tabs are the same. Yeah, yeah.
But some of those layers are so much those thoughts that are the essentials of white supremacy. And so it's not that I feel them or think them, it's just, it's a constant line in my brain
Hmm.
of things that do want me to start to hate, right? Like there's this seed of hate that I have inside of me, this that blossoms into pure rage. I mean, I put myself in anger management when I was in middle school. Like I was gonna hurt somebody.
You are
Like
amazing. Yeah. I also was in anger management, but it was court ordered. So yeah, go off. I apparently wasn't as self aware as a child as you were.
well, I was in this very violent household and I didn't, school wasn't safe. I was made fun of in school. And so it was like, I knew that I know that I am capable of committing atrocity. I never have committed atrocity because of my awareness of it. I think a lack of knowing thyself really is a piece of why people are perpetuating it. Because, like you said earlier, I'm a good person. I could never do that. I grew up going to work with my mama. She worked in a country club. And when I was old enough to start working there, and I cannot tell you how many white women I saw that were saying things equivalent to like off with their heads with that sickly sweet smile
Yes.
that, you know, and it's that white violence that we were talking about. It's like, I've constantly trying to release the anger in healthy ways. And I feel like that is a huge piece. There's just so much of it, and it's not all mine, you know?
No.
And So yeah, like you were saying, like creating this ability to see everybody as human is in itself one way in which we white folk can start that healing.
I agree with that. And but let me ask you, like, individually, right? Because I mean, like, and this whole thing has, I want to make the disclaimer, the work that you and I are talking about is not going to change the system. Like,
Right.
but it will change the people within the system, and
Right.
they will get so sick of the system because they'll realize their own upholding in it, that that will eventually break the system. So I don't want anybody to listen to this and be like, oh, I'm a good white person because I because I do the work and I'm a good human. Like, we're trying to get away from that. Like, no, understand that the system is trash because non-good white people created this system to subjugate non-white people. Like,
I mean,
so they
literally
were
everybody, not even just
everybody.
white people.
Yeah, and then that's another layer to it, right? Like, really, it was created like because white people have made like two races out of white people. I literally got almost blocked again on Facebook for saying this. Literally, they sent me a warning. I was like, white people literally created two races out of white people and white trash. And
Yeah.
nobody hates poor white people more than white people. Like, they literally act like they're not even them. Like, and we have made this staunch line in, I'm talking about hardcore line in the sand, to the point that we all believe this. Like, oh, they're not white, they're white trash. And we're like, what? God, constructs are insane, right? And when we keep saying things over and over again, creating the reality, so it is super important that people not listen to this and think that, like, yep, just do the work and you're going to be fine. Still break the system because it's holding us
Yes.
all back. And I'm tired of this timeline, quite frankly.
Next. I'm so tired of it. It's exhausting.
Like, get out of these circle loops and please let's ascend together. So now that I went off on that tab, let me try to get back.
But it's so true though.
Yeah.
And I do think that like part of my awareness is having been raised very poor, but also in as essentially like a house servant, right? Like I was in this country club going to work with my mom from the time that I was 8. That was the first job I had for the first 5 years that I worked there. And so, you know, the mentality of the rich whiteness and the mentality of the poor whiteness clashed inside of me. And it was so helpful to have people, because this particular place brings in people from the IRC, the International Rescue Committee, and it also brings in interns from some Nordic school that is like hospitality driven. So there's people from all over the world. There's incredibly rich people that grew up in Dubai, but there's also people who fled to the US from, say, Dakar, because they were the financial advisor in a government that was overthrown. And for them to, and seeing them now that they lived in huge mansions and now they are like shining shoes, and the kindness and the love that they were still able to hold and to be able to laugh. And I mean, working with people from Bosnia and Serbia who saw each other, being attacked, or were people that attacked other people, and to have them working together, and the healing that was required outside of work for those communities.
Yes.
Just being blessed to have seen that. It's just this opportunity to like stop othering the world.
Mm-hmm. Now, I think that, like, there's a wonderful, and I almost hate to use the word privilege because it's been so used in so many different ways, but there is a privilege to poverty that is not discussed enough, right?
Mm.
Because often, like, because that's the great equalizer. When you're poor, the only color that matters is green. We're all poor. Like, we all ain't got it. So it's like, and when you're exposed, especially within these service jobs, I had a cleaning company for 20 years. So it gave me,
Mm-hmm.
like, I was in people's homes. So you
Mm-hmm.
get like this vastly different experience
Yeah.
because people are comfortable in their homes, right? So there's been clients that I have to drop because you legit are treating me like the maid. And
Yeah.
that means that's how you live your life.
Right.
And like, not that I like, there's no amount of money to kind of keep me around a crappy human being. Like, you're a terrible person and I don't want to really be around you. Um, and so I've also been exposed, to all of these different layers of society, though they would be homogenized,
Yeah.
by their color only. And
Mhm.
it's like, hmm, this has been fun. This has been interesting over 20 years, on top of that, I grew up in New York City. So, like, New York City is literally like United Nations. Like,
Yeah.
I never just heard English in my life living in New York City. I remember when Albanians were like rushing from everything that was going on over there, moving in, and like, you like I had no idea that like the white people were Muslims. Like,
Yeah.
like I'm like, oh,
Shit.
so cool. Like, I'm okay. So you like in New York City, you just have a completely different, you're literally immersed in others' cultures.
Hmm.
So for me, like, I never grew up saying like, oh, that's my white friend. I'm like, oh yeah, oh, my Italian friend, my Irish friend,
Right.
Albanian, Yugoslavian, et cetera, et cetera. And that was like what really kind of set it off for me, like, as I got older, to really realize, like, then living overseas too, but then coming to the South
Mm.
where nothing has really changed whatsoever, like,
Mhm.
as far as the grouping of people. And I'm like, wait, what is this? Why
Yeah.
is it like that? And and then I recognize, like, well, actually, most of America is like that. It's that I happen to be in New York City. Like, America is not a melting pot. New York City is the melting pot. You're going to get every language, ethnicity,
Mhm.
culture, religion, and like be immersed in that culture completely and utterly.
Mhm.
So I recognize that living in New York City actually gave me a worldview without ever having to travel the world.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that's super important in seeing individuals,
Right.
seeing people and their culture and kind of getting to know them. Um, and how that would also aid in white persons getting into their ancestral healing, right?
Mhm.
Like you said, like with the Serbians and Bosnians, like, they were literally killing each other. And if they could work together,
And
like,
they were
we could
neighbors,
heal some
like
stuff.
literally neighbors killing neighbors, and like all of a sudden you're in this other country and like it's happening. Like you're working to, like,
Right. Here together.
yeah, yeah. And even with New York, like the school system is so segregated. Like I live in Charlottesville, Virginia, so still the Bible Belt, but
Yeah.
it's this place where we're lauded for being progressive, and I've never understood that. We are such a segregated society. Like Charlottesville is so segregated. It's so clear. The school systems, the like everything.
Yeah.
And it's just like wild that people think that Thomas Jefferson created a like progressive city, like he was a literal slave owner. What? Like,
Super duper not progressive there, but like,
he's since passed on, but for years I was massaging a man who was part of bringing in desegregation to UVA. So I mean, it's this recent thing, and people think, oh, like get over it, like move on. It's like it just happened though. It
like,
just
it just
happened.
like, there was a news article like in 2017 somewhere here in the South, like, a school was actually still segregated, like, by
Mm-hmm.
law.
Yes.
Like, so the get over it thing for me goes right back to the shame and guilt. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if you dealt with your shame and guilt and just accepted it, right? You just got to own that. Like, you just have got to take accountability that, like, yeah, you were a part of something absolutely horrible. No, some of you were not even, like, some of you were poor and in the cotton fields and getting paid $1 a day while they were getting nothing. And I get that, but understand that this system was still created to see you as better
Right.
than. And you
Right.
have to accept that. Like,
Mm.
you have to accept that, yeah, your life may have been shit as a white person, because Lord knows you can go into rural Georgia right now and like see like nothing has changed for
Right.
them since the Civil War.
Mhm.
Like, and it's absolute abject poverty. You're like, you know, like people kill me when they're like, we're going to become a third world country. I'm like, you obviously haven't traveled America enough.
We are a third world country, and
We're a
a
third
feudal
world country
society
with
on top
running
of it.
water.
Like, this isn't capitalism, this is feudalism, period.
Absolutely. Like,
Period.
and like, but the key component to that is your life wasn't harder simply because of something you had no control over.
So
Yeah.
on the note of the guilt and the layers and being able to like take that guilt of having perpetuated this harm, because it's very painful to have that, like you said, that punch in the gut and realize like the amount of harm that I have done just by existing in our society.
Right.
Very painful, right? And then you have this history of not dealing with the pain, because what is white culture if not a lack of emotions? You know,
The truth.
so we're not allowed to feel these emotions. So we're already overflowing as white folk just with these emotions, especially as people raised you know, as a girl. Like, I was told anger wasn't acceptable. On the other hand, my brother can only feel angry or happy. And so to unpack that is kind of a piece of being able to admit and acknowledge and release the guilt of having just done harm by existing. And in my practice, like, that's always kind of my goal. Is I do all sorts of techniques, and it depends on the person, but we always eventually get to the ways in which individuals are harmful in society. And I've lost a lot of clients once we get there, you
Oh
know,
yeah, me too. Me
but
too.
the
Just to
real
let
ones
you know.
stick with it.
Yeah. Me too. I have a group on Facebook called Social Matters, and like I have a lot of non-men is the best way I could say, because not everybody identifies as a woman, but they're
Sure.
also not men. So
Yeah.
non-men white people in the group. And like when I get to that point and I'm like, hold on, because this is gonna get harder, because actually we're going to get to the point where I'm gonna let you know where feminism left men behind, and
Right.
how the patriarchy actually also oppresses white men. And
Yeah.
like, if I say that, I usually lose a bunch of people right then, because they want to hate white men. And like, and that's where their comfort is. And I'm like, you have to sit with that for a second and recognize that, yeah, that is just some like unfettered, dealt with emotions. You don't really hate this person. You hate the system that was created. He hates it too. He too
Right.
was underneath oppression. This system was really only created for a cis heterosexual white man
Yes.
who owns property. So that like gave
And
you
is
the top,
able-bodied and Christian.
yeah, and
Yes.
was Christian. Like, so there, at the beginning, it was like the top echelon, right? Like, it was never meant for everybody. It was
No.
never, not even for white everybody's. It was
Mm-mm.
literally that guy. It was literally the top 1% that we have now, right? Because somewhere on down the line, we all fall somewhere on the spectrum of queerness or binaries of sexuality and genders and all that. So, like, if you weren't this guy, that guy, you better be the Christian head of your household, kill every fucking body, like white guy. You are not going to be able to survive in that system either. So, like, but they're not ready. A lot of people, they're like, what? We're done. Cancel that. And I'm like, okay, that's okay. Like, and definitely white non-men, women and femmes get super big feelings when I'm like, you're by proximity alone, just by your whiteness, you are the bad guy. You have to sit with that. You have to do the work anyway. And they're like, but, and I'm like, I'm not saying there's not nuance, because I grew
Mm-hmm.
up inside of white culture. So this is not me outside of white culture. I grew up inside of white culture. So I'm very well aware of how white women are not listened to and heard of or heard in their homes and don't take up space there. So I understand where your anger and your fear and your pushback is coming from, but this is shadow work. It is
Yes.
sitting all of the multiple truths that exist in the
Yeah.
same space and giving space to it all. And like, that's a lot of big, big work. And it's
So
so much
much.
to say, just forget about it. And the reason why they say that is because, like, inside of white culture, that's what they do.
Right.
You just don't talk about things. You just move on. Like, what's wrong?
Yeah.
You just move on
You
from it.
know, he's a funny uncle. Just don't be alone with them.
Yeah, just
Or,
like,
you know,
just
like
move on. I know your brother just smacked you. Like, what do you want me to do about it? Like, I grew up in white culture. I know that things are tossed. On top of that, when you start getting into ethnic whites, like, Irish people don't talk about anything,
mm,
nothing. Suck it up, buttercup. And that's it. That's the end of that. So if
mm,
they're not dealing with their own shit, they're definitely not dealing with your shit. You know what I mean? And
right.
I learned that lesson when doing my ancestral healing with my maternal side and like
Mm,
doing my ancestry findings. And I recognized that, my grandparents had immigrated from Ireland to America. And, but in that time span, right? Like, cause sometimes we're also a slave to the time that we're in, right?
yeah.
They weren't able to like FaceTime at home or pick up their mobile phones and just ring up their mom and get some
Mm,
advice. Like a lot of these people left home and like you saw them, if maybe
wow.
possibly
Yeah.
once, twice. And so I realized in doing that healing, my grandmother got to this foreign country because
Yeah.
they're all from Ireland. So she got to this foreign land in Manhattan, and I have family pictures of our family land in Ireland. It was lovely, like glens, all of the things, thatched roofs and that. To move to the projects in Manhattan,
Whew.
stacked on top of each other, right? Uh,
Culture shock.
yeah, culture shock like hell. To then have all of these children, right? Because again, let me reiterate, Irish Catholic. Um, to have all of these children, to bury those children because they didn't survive. Only the last three girls, my mom and her two sisters, survived. To have a husband who wound up with multiple sclerosis and in a wheelchair. And again, not seeing the full humanity in this one woman. This is the tale of one woman in my family, one white woman in my family, right? Um, and then having heard stories, like they don't talk about it. Oh, your grandmother drank. She was just rough with us, like you hear these random stories and you're like, oh my god, my grandmother was a raging alcoholic who abused her kids, and like
Yeah.
she was also,
And
she also and but or like going through all of those other things that I just previously mentioned, and then when I started doing that, like lining up the birth years, I'm like, she stayed pregnant, buried a child, got pregnant with another one,
mm,
buried that one, got pregnant with three girls back to back, and a husband in a wheelchair. I drink and beat somebody too. Ugh.
fuck
With
yes.
nobody to talk to, no mom to cry on, no family support. And it's like, yeah, we don't talk about it. Maybe she didn't talk about home because she missed it too much. You know, like my aunt didn't, my aunt and my mom didn't know anything about like siblings. And as we're now like this generation, we're connecting through ancestry DNA and like, oh, I did meet that person. I had no idea it was my uncle. Like
Oh,
all
okay.
of these things and like, and it's like all of the untold stories
Mm-hmm.
in whiteness is violence also. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, and just the homogenization that comes from the culture of whiteness, we wind up doing to our own white families and our own white tales.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to lean into that. And like leaning into that, and I took in her energy. And like when I went on a visit to New York for my 40th birthday, I made it my business to go to her grave
Mm-hmm.
and sit there with her. And I brought my kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I get it. And I'm so sorry you were
Mm-hmm.
not heard. So
Yeah.
sorry. And the healing from that for me
Yeah.
was like, wow. And I hope it freed her a
Yes.
little,
Yes.
and then my children thereafter.
Yes.
So I find it, I love my life bridges both worlds because it gives me a broader view, right? So it kind of comes right back to why white people need to do this work. It's really about, it's empowering. Like, I can tell her tale without any longer feeling shame. Like, yes, my grandmother was an alcoholic and she definitely beat her kids. Like, and they definitely were messed up for that. And they definitely weren't the best parents to us because of that. And we may have not been the best to our kids if we didn't heal that. And we may still not be the best because we're still carrying that and working it through. I would lie if, I said my first response in my brain was a gentle parent response. No, the gentle parent actively pulls back the Irish mom that wants to throw a shoe at you. Like, actively. Whoa. We don't throw shoes anymore, kid. No, oh yes, you're right. Well, you're right. Let me
Yeah.
like, those things are super duper important. And I feel like we got way off of our lines of questioning, but I still feel like this is an important
We did, but it all ties in, right? Like, my grandma Sid, which tells you how close I was to her, was this very hard woman. But like, again, I look at like her father left her family when she was very, very young, and she and her sister were there. And so her mom was left without a man, and at a time during the Great Depression. Like, there's every reason for this woman to be hard. Like, she got knee surgeries, drove herself there, drove herself back, didn't tell anybody, and nobody knew until she put the peg on the wall and said, "Oh yeah, that just came out of my knee." Like, this is a woman that just did the thing, right?
Right.
And so this is very much like learning to accept that and be able to love her. She just passed last year, and I already feel this shifting with her, just in the acknowledgement and verbalizing. Nobody else in my family will talk about it, of course.
Right.
I try to bring up any topic that's not sports or the weather or something that's like vaguely racist, if not just incredibly problematic of some sort. It's really hard to have those conversations because nobody wants to have them.
No.
But to just have somebody be like, "Oh, I understand why you were the way you were, and I forgive you for the times which you lost your shit and did whatever to me or my mother or my cousins. Like, I forgive you." And just the lightness in her spirit as she comes and goes is palpable.
Absolutely. And like, back to those epigenetics, like, exactly that. And when you have generations and generations and generations of, and why I focus on white women and femmes is just because the hand that rocks the cradle. Like as much as we want to get away from that, like gender roles, and I agree with not, I myself have an egalitarian home. Still, in all, the hand that rocks the cradle, right? Like, the person who is the majority caregiver to the child is shaping that. And up until 10 minutes ago, that is the mothering person quite often times.
Yes.
Because even if she passes, it still gets passed on to another woman or femme. It does not often, until recently, get passed on to anybody else. So when you have generations and generations of white women and femmes not healing, not discussing, not empowering themselves with using their own voice in their own homes and passing down, like, they've learned silence. Their silence in other topics is because they've learned silence in their own lives. Like, silence is violence from them to others, but silence is safety for them in their home and environment.
Right, because if you're not silent about it, you get smacked about it.
You're gonna catch a smack. You're gonna get put out. You're gonna get, you're gonna lose your financial backing. What are you gonna do without this person? I'm gonna pull back. I'm not gonna pay for you to go to school. Oh, you want to talk up about that? Well, I'm taking this from you. Oh, give me the keys to the car. It's always something. So white women and femmes have learned that silence is actually safety. Well, if we don't talk about it, like, look, it's okay. We'll just move on. We'll just move on. So I don't necessarily think that it's dismissive. And I think that if they dealt with their ancestral trauma and where that comes from, and the shadow work in recognizing that actually your silence was violence towards yourself in your home, is actually, if you would have gotten with other, disenfranchised groups of even just women like yourself, you would have actually empowered yourselves in a bigger way. And I don't mean in the getting rights to vote. I mean like having your basic rights in your home, your sovereignty in your home comes first, right? Like systemic issues are the macro to the microcosms, right? Like systemic, like the system wouldn't become what it is if our microcosms didn't represent it.
Yeah.
And so the healing that white people need to do is healing within that microcosm, which then, like I said, would impact the macro, right? Because no longer would you accept a world that is oppressing people if you weren't living within oppression in your own personal spaces. And I think that
within
that's
our
not
own bodies.
yeah. I mean, like from that point, it's like that's another thing that's not like when we talk about police brutality, I'm like, okay, so violence begets violence, right? Like, so we know as Black people, like, I don't care what, I don't give a shit about how people want to play with the percentages and the numbers. Like, numbers and percentages are two completely different things. I need people to take any kind of basic math class before you even comment and try to debate me, okay? 100% of 20 and 100% of 20,000 is not the fucking same. Moving on. Not gonna do that one at all. Not even opening the door for that conversation. So like, but if we're talking about like dealing with it from that micro space, right? If we're gonna say that the police are violent to Black bodies, absolutely they are. There's no question about that. But then I always look for the intersection. Who are police married to? White women.
Yep. Yep.
If they're violent, if their first inclination is to be violent towards the weaker sex or the weaker group, who are they beating at home before? And then you can pull up those numbers yourself. I've posted that like in my group too. I'm like, let's talk about like how these people, when you look in their jackets, they're also domestic violence abusers.
Yeah.
So like screaming, not speaking is violence to yourself. Right. And that ancestral healing would make a huge difference of empowerment within that community that would bust the system because they stay silent. No, it's okay. You know, you know what? My fault. Dinner should have been ready. My fault. You know what? I shouldn't have said that. He had a hard day at work, you know, and that's how silence is violence for white people. And when they heal that ancestrally, they will shift their lives in a major way.
Yeah. And it comes down to, like in my practice, working with people, oftentimes we have to start with breath because especially non-men are so unwilling to breathe in a fashion that is audible. You know, you think about the silencing of ourselves, you think about the vocalizing or the actions that we do. I mean, literally not allowing ourselves to breathe full deep breaths does violence to ourselves. You know, how are we supposed to move any of these emotions if we're not breathing into them? You know, and so often that's really where I start with folks is like, you're going to be really uncomfortable and we're just going to sit and breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth. We're going to equalize it. If you start getting dizzy, go ahead and breathe normal. But when you're able to, come back to this because, oh, I'm used to receiving so much less oxygen. Okay. And the third time you come, and other stuff will happen, certainly. But the third time people come, it's like, okay, I come in and I automatically take a big, deep breath. I know that that person is ready to go just a little bit deeper. And I never try to go past where they're ready to go. I might brush up against that line because discomfort is very different from the pain that can cause. Yes. My friend put it really beautifully the other day. It's like having two pieces of muscle without any connective tissue. So the way that I see myself is that connective tissue between the muscle so that people are able.
I have to interrupt you because literally I see myself as a bridge, right? Like I keep my kyanite stone next to me that I got from Sea to Star because Laura is my rock lady. And like I literally like I am the bridge. So I love you, by the way. So here we are in love and there we go. Okay, go. Continue.
Yes. But it's so true though, right? Like, because when we try to go past, so I'm somebody, And now that I understand that I'm probably autism spectrum, I'm able to look at that and go, oh, like me pointing out all of the minute things. And also, you know, being raised in a violent household with people who like, I had to like notice the slight changes in their breathing, their footsteps, their tone of voice or whatever. And it was like, okay, so I know when a thought crosses your mind that was mildly upsetting to you. And I don't know that that's about the situation or dinner tonight. Maybe you're cooking your least favorite meal. It doesn't matter. I can see that. And as a kid, I pointed that shit out. And it makes people very angry. I had this one circumstance. I think I was 22, 23, and I was trying to take a course about plants. It was like a communicating with plants thing. Long story short, we figured out that this wasn't a good class for me with the teacher. She refused to let me make a tincture with bourbon instead of vodka. And I'm not going to drink a tincture that's vodka. So why am I going to make a tincture that's vodka? Like this is a 100 proof bourbon. It's the same thing. That was like her, like,
better, so.
Right? Like that was her, yes. Like I will drink it. I will add it to my nightcap. It's easy. But she just like drew we're not going to work, but like just really like intense militant energy. And we were sitting there and talking, and I could feel her guides and my guides very, very different, very much didn't mesh. Felt it from the first class. This meeting was after that first class. And I looked at her, and we had agreed on part trade. And I said, so I acknowledge that with the one class, I owe you this session. I can feel that you don't want me to give this session to you or your husband. So, you know, do you want me to pay you over time so that I can afford to pay you for this single class? Like, how would you like to be repaid for your time and energy? Because you are still this teacher. You did give me this time. I want to honor that. Started yelling at me. Her guides were like, I could just feel the emotions they wanted me to feel. So I just let tears roll down my face because that appeased them.
Of course it
and I just, there wasn't really my emotion attached to it. It was this grief that they were shoving. And I was in this place, again, very, very young, not great at putting up boundaries yet, that kind of thing. And she just got so mad, yelled at me. We ended the conversation. I don't want anything from you, leave. Okay, so everything that I just said to you was right. And you needed to yell at me. You needed somebody to cry for you. You were in so much pain. Like I left going, I forgive you. Right. Have a good life. I'm never recommending anybody come to this class.
Correct.
But that was the age where I was like, oh, maybe I'm just supposed to be a witness. And from that point, so I'm somebody who believes that energy is neither created nor destroyed, that we don't necessarily reincarnate as humans every time, that sometimes our energy disperses and goes broad, sometimes other energy adds, whatever. I've had experiences, and I used back at 22, thought it was all bullshit. Like I was as close to an atheist as I've ever been. That was around the age where I had these memories of coming to this planet as a witness to watch humanity change.
I love
because it. So I came to this planet to be a witness, right? And I get goosebumps every time I talk about it, because from as a person who was like, there is no such thing as reincarnation, to have these memories of being here as a witness, I'm like, oh. And then later, I think I was 25, having memories of me trying to make this shift happen in humanity and dying in those attempts, and trying to be in both spirit and present as well, dying in those attempts, life after life after life. And I'm here, and I'm like, I'm not going to be quiet about it. I've been loud about it my whole life. You know, it's like, it is time for this shift to happen. And I can't do it by pointing out the 10 steps further that this person could potentially be right now. That's not helpful. Instead, I can say, okay, if the goal is obviously here, you know, and we're over here, what building blocks can we provide to create the highway to that lesson? Yes. How can I ask you questions for you to get there? or how can I present things in a way that help you start to think things that you've never thought before that might make you uncomfortable.
Absolutely. I love paradigm shifts. And my when I do shadow work, I start them off with a simple daily journal.
Mm.
Simple daily journal. Like, get to know yourself, because knowing thyself is the key, right? Like, healthy, you break it down, it's like heal thyself, like, like the healthy self, know thyself. Like, there's an inner knowing that we are all born with, right? And then it's suppressed by societal standards and roles and all of the constructs that we've created. But there's that inner knowing that has come through generations, that's come through lifetimes. I also believe in, not in reincarnation in that kind of way, but I do believe energy just doesn't die. And we're energetic beings. It just doesn't. It cannot be destroyed. So it's like all of that, you are the stars. You have this infinite knowing within you. You have infinite knowledge and wisdom. And like, wisdom comes from knowledge applied. So it's like getting to that knowing and then actually applying it to your current incarnation changes it into wisdom. And then you start making shifts and then things happen. And when you're an empowered being, you want to empower other beings, right? Because oppressed people oppress people. That's what happens. So when you have, white women and femmes in this world who are oppressed within their own homes, again, I'm not saying at the system at large,
Right.
but within their own homes, which that matters, gravely, they're going to step out into the world violently.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Mm-hmm.
going to be harmful, period. Like, immediately when you said tears started rolling down your face, I like rolled my eyes and just let out a sigh. Oh, a white woman crying. Because it's like, oh God, it's like, it's a violent thing. It's an exhausting thing. But then again, like, those are truths too. Is it violent? Yes. Is it exhausting? Yes. But is it real? And is it grief? And is it emotion? And is it suppressed? Like, shadow work is about dealing with the suppressed self. Like I explain to people, my most simple way of explaining it is giving life to the person you suppress to become palatable.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's what shadow work is. It is, yeah, I'm all of those things. Like I said at the beginning, I'm terrible. Yep, I say horrible things. I make terrible jokes. I'm a 12-year-old boy from the 80s. So they're horrible. I'm like Al Bundy. Like, but like I curve myself because it's not appropriate. It was never appropriate. It was just accepted,
Right.
but it's also a part of who I am too, and it's like, okay, I was that person. You know what? That person was funny to me then, I recognize that person was pretty fucking harmful. Like, ugh, okay, so
Yeah.
maybe
I
not.
think the
Let's
word
just,
appropriate is key there, right? Like,
yeah,
like you said, the white woman tears, are they violent? Absolutely, fully. They are used to harm people intentionally. I don't care if it's subconscious, it's intentional.
hmm,
Um,
absolutely.
and when we release those tears in safe manners that do no harm to others, we are able to then use our tears less frequently to do harm, right? Obviously, very violent. And very necessary to release in appropriate settings. And appropriate was the key word, right?
Right.
Um, like the anger that I've released, I'm not going to go and beat my dog. I'm not going to go pick up a fight with my wife. I am possibly going to ask everybody to leave the house and go for a little walk. And I might primal scream, or I might,
I do that.
yes.
I take my kids outside and we scream. I'm like, obviously you have something, you need to scream. And I do that in my practice too. When I work with white women directly in their healing, I'm like, take up space. Cause I feel like I said earlier before the recording, is that white women take up space in other spaces, but not their own spaces.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, it's so, like barely with the audible breath, right?
Right.
And like, so, and it's like, And it's back to those prisons that I said that we create. So
Mm-hmm.
as Black women who we tend to be, this is not like, but as a generalization, we tend to be more boisterous. We tend to speak louder because we hadn't been heard for so long. Energetically, you're going to hear what the fuck I got to say. Oh yeah. Oh, I'm gonna say what I gotta say. Like yeah, right now. Oh yeah, you're gonna hear it. I think that that's the attraction, right?
Yeah.
Like the you go girl. Like it's not. No, I'm like please don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. But I know that it is literally the cheering on from like the sidelines because in their own life they don't stand up. And I want to take this moment and tell every white woman that is looking for ancestral healing,
Mm.
stand up in your dinner table, flip that shit over, and just fucking scream and tell them to clean it the fuck up and walk out.
Yes.
There. That is Selenite and Sage's healing energy for the week.
The energy, right? Like, and the kids are at the table, so like let's not send them to school the next day with that anger still resonating with inside of
No,
them,
let
right?
them
So it's
scream
like
and break
if
something too.
right, yeah. Ice, I love and working with people who have lost their children, whether it's a miscarriage or the baby was born not alive or whatever. Take ice, go to somewhere concrete and break that shit.
Yes.
Throw it as hard as you can. If you are willing to clean it up or have a safe place to do it, or in Richmond here in Virginia, there's a place where you can go and demolish a car. You can
I
throw.
love those new things.
Oh, so helpful. A barrier in your brain that has been lessened or brought down, and you're suddenly aware that you are filled with this rage. Like, I have 28 different coping mechanisms I can send your way, honey. Like, let's do this.
Well, I think going back,
when my
and I
wife
don't
and
want
I
to speak on trans issues or speak out of turn. I feel comfortable speaking to trans issues. I just don't want to speak out of turn, so correct me. I think that what it is that because they live their lives, like right, going back to what you said with your brother and yourself,
yeah.
because they live their lives presenting. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you think you are, what you feel you are, what you know you are.
Mm-hmm.
Like I myself, I very much feel super comfortable being like, yeah, no, I'm Irish. Like I tell people that, and I like that's my inner like joke. Like people will ask me, what are you? I'm like, I'm Irish. And then I just like watch their brains try to explode as they're looking at an obviously Black woman.
Well, the Black Irish people exist, so there's that.
I mean, they do, but it's just so fun to bust their brain in America. But because you're perceived by the world how you look, like that's just what
Right.
it is.
The
So if
gears
you
just
spend
halt.
right, if you spent your life presenting as what we have defined as a woman,
Right.
you lived like that then
Mm-hmm.
you lived within the constructs that were created for who you look like. No matter
Mm-hmm.
who you've been your entire life, you have lived your life underneath that social construct. So like you said, like I don't even think it's the T that's the barrier breaker. I think it's the acceptance that now you look like the person that can rage.
Yes.
Now you
Yes.
have societal permission to be angry, right? Like your brother, you said, he
Mm-hmm.
could be, or any man for that matter, he can be upset and angry, which is a whole other topic because that's the only emotion we really allow men. Worse for Black men. It's like so many layers to the intersections. It's crazy. So like now you have this person who has always been a man, but they presented as what societal constructs of a woman, but now that barrier is lifted. Like, oh, I look like who I am. And
Right.
society has a different allowance for you. So, like, now they rage.
Yes.
Now they're angry with permission,
Right.
societal permission. And
Right.
that's another construct that we just need to burst
Absolutely.
because
Absolutely.
you shouldn't have to, nobody should have to live underneath that much. Like,
No.
it's just so, like, one of my favorite things is like get free. Like it just doesn't have to be this difficult. Like just refuse to conform to societal standards. Like do the shadow work.
Yes.
Heal that and refuse. And eventually, if enough of us do that, these societal constructs will become the fringe idea,
Mm-hmm.
and,
Mm-hmm.
and will push them to like break, because there's no other choice, because we're refusing. I'm not adhering to that. I'm gonna
Right.
bust this, like I said, like when I'm like, I'm looking at you, you're looking at me. I'm obviously, by America's standards, a Black woman, and I love just, I'm Irish. And like, you could see like the math equation, like, how? And it's like, I'm not even gonna explain it, just because.
Delightful.
Yeah, I don't even want to, because like, work that out for yourself. Like, figure it
Mm-hmm.
out for yourself. It's wild how free we can actually be when we step into that ancestral healing, and really the true acceptance of yourself. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's what it is that when you really just get into a place and space where I love me, all of me.
Yeah.
I love every single part, every faction, every ancestor, every single one, like, and I can hold anger for them at the same time.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? But like, radical self acceptance
Mm-hmm.
leads to some radical ass freedom. And that
Mm-hmm.
takes radical ancestral work.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so excited that you're doing this work and trying to help other people do this work.
It's like pulling teeth.
Oh, yes, it is like pulling teeth. It's because it's never been taught.
Right.
Because the system of whiteness teaches like divine providence. Like, you are at the upper echelon, and it's like, no, no one is the upper echelon. That's the thing, right? Like, we are all actually energetic beings having a very human experience, and none is better than the other.
Oh, can I get off this ride?
Yeah, I'm so exhausted, Sabr. So, I'm like, I'm gonna take the 30 people that actually listen to me. I'm like, I want to get on Elon Musk's to the moon. I want to get out of here. Something's got to give, because it's exhausting. It is.
Yeah.
It is so exhausting. So like, yeah, because I feel like we can go on and on forever. If you could tell your 18-year-old self be something, what would that be? Because somebody's 18 is going to be listening. Some young white person is going to be listening to this, and what would you tell them?
I wish I could remember what I wrote down,
Oh,
honestly,
I
because
could read it to you.
yeah, sure.
Okay. Your answer says it's okay to fail. In fact, strive to fail so that you'll be faster to try things that intimidate you. So now you could expound on that.
I'm smart sometimes. So I think a lot of the way that we uphold this structure within the white hegemony is by not allowing failure. You can look at that from the way our school system is set up, which is not set up to teach us anything. It's certainly not set up to prepare us for the world, right? Um, and in reality, the people that make these amazing pieces of art that get really far in life, that are what we call successful, have failed hundreds, if not thousands of times at the thing that they're trying to do. And so, this whole setup from as soon as a baby is born and onward, we're basically told, if you're not going to do it perfectly, don't do it at all.
Yes.
And it took me a long time to get away from that. And now I'm like, yes, this is an opportunity for me to fail so that I can get better at it.
Yes, I agree. I agree so much. That holds us back, the fear of failing. And I'm an entrepreneur naturally. So
Mm,
like, I will have tried things a million different ways, like, and I'm a little spastic sometimes from the outside, right? Like, well, I want to do that. But it's like, well, that way didn't work. Like, okay, that gives me an opportunity to find a new way to do it, because that way wasn't working. And I have an end goal, like you said, going back to like, you have to
mm,
start with people where they are. And sometimes they're ready to dive right into that deep ancestral work. Like, no, sit me in a circle. Let me talk to these ancestors, call them in. I got some shit to say. And
mm.
sometimes it's just, you need to learn how to breathe. because you hold your breath and you've been holding your breath for 47 years. Yes. And that's a problem. So like that is an absolutely gem of an advice. I do that with my kids. I'm like, no, fail, fuck up. You're supposed to. You're not living life if you didn't fuck up enough.
Right. Yeah, one of the things that I was doing at 18 that I don't think a lot of 18-year-olds do is I was already actively changing the inner voice in my head as well. And I think that goes along with failing. I am mean and I am meanest to myself. And I was most heavily suicidal as a teenager. And I came out of that by the exhaustive work of changing every single thought. So it went from, I don't fucking want to be here, to like, I'd rather be over there. That's still just as true, but it's a positive way to put it, right? You know, and eventually it was like, you know, like over there would be nice, but this is okay, to like, actually, I'm kind of enjoying myself over here. And it took a long time. And honestly, in my mid 30s now, I am working on getting that back, because the late end of my 20s, I was in an abusive relationship, all sorts of blah, blah, blah. Nobody really gives a fuck. But the reality of the matter is my brain went back into that negative thinking. And not only is it better for my mental health, which allows me to do deeper, more impactful work within myself as well as the community, but it also allows me again to do that healing, because it is that violent voice that I was gifted in life. I know my father has this voice in his head. He and I have talked about it, right? And it's like, okay, so you pass this voice down to me in such a palpable way. And the more that I can unwind it, give it love, be like, it's not that that thing isn't true, but it's that I'm not looking at it from a perspective that's going to help me or heal. When I look at people, you know, in activist circles, there are some circles that are very, very violent. And I think that there is a place for all of the things in this reach for liberation. And I watch people, and I was one of those people for years, and still go into it for sure, just to keep myself accountable. But it doesn't draw people in the same way. And that's scary, because you get into like tone policing and all that jazz. I'm not talking about tone policing.
No.
I'm not talking about, you know, I'm talking about, if I can not project my anger from my fight with my wife at breakfast onto this conversation about white supremacy, then this person might be able to hear the words that I have to say better.
Right.
It's not that people aren't allowed to feel like, yes, feel your anger. People should absolutely be furious about the stuff that's happening in the world, that has happened and that will continue happening. Like, yes, feel that and express it to people, you know, and that is so valid and so right. And for me, I'm working on getting to a place where I am less spewing that anger when I'm trying to help people understand things. If I'm showing up and I'm just like, my friend was just harassed or X, Y, and Z, I'm allowed to be angry. I'm just expressing myself. Okay. But if I'm trying to talk to, say, my brother-in-law about the fact that like rape culture exists, and like it is a important safety mechanism for me to assume that any man is going to be a rapist, before I get to know them, and often even after, it's not that I am demonizing these cis men. It's that I am taking my experiences, being cautious and wary, you know, but if I use those words rather than, you know, this happened to me and that happened, like, he can't hear that. He's already defensive, right?
You're already showing up to the conversation with him not believing or not even wanting to hear, because again, it goes right back to shame and guilt, right? It's like why race conversations are so difficult, or
right.
phobia conversations are so difficult. It's because, again, not dealing with the shadow self, you know, myself, even when I started having conversations about like trans issues, or I'm like, but that doesn't make any sense. And then I had to realize, wait a minute, nobody owes you a conversation about their humanity. Right. Like, at all. So like, you don't get to, I don't need to understand. I don't care why somebody's transitioning. Cool. What's your new name? Got it.
Right.
You want to share the story? righteous, but that took me doing the shadow work. Like, why am I so resistant to this? Why does this person need to be what I'm perceiving them to be? So, like, that language does in all that communication is important, because no, you can't just turn around and say, well, men are rapists. Like, what? No,
Right.
that's no, no, not my son. Like, not my husband. I'm like, I'm resistant immediately.
Right.
I don't want to hear what you have to say, because you're talking about my husband and my son.
Right.
So, like, no. But being mindful, of the words. I love how when you said, in regard to the negative voice, you said, I was gifted.
Mm.
And that is powerful, right? Because when you feel like you're a victim of what your father passed along,
Mm-hmm.
it continues to perpetuate that. But when you say it's a gift, it becomes something, like, my brain creates pictures of words, right?
Mm.
So, like, when you said that, it's like it goes right to the unpacking, right?
Mm.
Like, the opening, the
Mm-hmm.
unpacking, taking all of the shit out of it. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, he was raised by that hard ass woman who got knee surgery while we were at school. Like,
And had
you
a
know,
hard ass daddy in the Navy. Like, yes.
right. And he was in a society where he was already poor. So, like, and then he was a man. So he's a man who's poor, who's supposed to provide for people, like, and protect people. And then he's a military person. So he's supposed to be willing to die for people. Yeah, he had no time to give you soft words at all, because it was his survival mechanism throughout all of his lived
Mm-hmm.
truths. And there has to be nuance in
Mm-hmm.
healing. There
Mm-hmm.
just has to be.
Mm-hmm.
Has to be. Are there some staunch lines? Yes, like I said,
Sure.
there's a staunch line, and nobody owes you a conversation in your humanity. I'm not about to beg you for my Black life to matter, because I'm a human. I'm not doing that. I don't expect you as a trans person to, well, I should have the right. No, yeah, you don't need to explain that. You absolutely, I agree. Like that, we come to the table with that. You have the right to do whatever. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, those are really important language distinctions
Yeah.
and conversation holders. You have to be willing to temper that. I like, like, because it's funny, like the tone police, like, watch how you say that. No, I'm not going to watch how the fuck I
Right.
say anything, but I
Right.
will temper the conversation so that it can be received better, because it's going to make you uncomfortable. And
Right. And no matter what,
all healing is going to make you
all of
uncomfortable.
it.
And I'm here for uncomfortable conversations. And I often lead conversations, like I said, like in my group, like, I'm going to say something that's going to be, it's probably going to be homophobic. It's probably going to be misogynistic, or it's going to be these things that we've labeled, because I'm still trying to understand and grasp something. So
Mm.
correct me, but don't attack me. And I
Right.
think that's an important thing, to be like, hey, like, I misgendered you earlier and was like, I'll edit that out. Like, but, like, imagine if you would have just jumped on me, it's they, that, like, oh, okay, look, you have every right to be angry about that. But I'm sorry, we are still living in a paradigm where we perceive things with our eyes. I
Right.
apologize for that. And I work on that actively. And, like, we have to take accountability of the fact that we will do this, and you will fail, right? It goes right back to it's
Right.
okay to fail.
Yes.
Like, I'm gonna fail. I'm gonna say some things that are ooh, like, but let me bring that back to my awareness. Let
Yeah.
me, you know, own that and say, hey, I apologize for that, space, and that, because that's violent to you. And I'm sorry for that. That's not okay. But you got to be, goes right back to what you said. You got to be scared. You got to be okay to fail.
Right. Right. And I think as somebody who has been gently pushed my entire childhood towards stepping up and being more emotionally aware, emotionally mature, and then finding words for it through therapy and finding coping mechanisms through the variety of modalities. And um, I, I do feel like I'm somebody who is particularly skilled to help people get to that place, right?
I agree.
But it's not a skill that like it's not just me, right? It's a skill that anybody can get to, but it takes some people more time. My wife is so emotionally mature, had no language for it in the years we've been together. she has gained that language. So now she also has the language for it, but she caught it so much faster than me because she already understood it in her heart. Whereas I have spent my life a majority of the time separated and numb from my emotions and just
Right.
totally disassociated to survive. And to be in a safe place now where I'm like, okay, like I'm gonna go beat up the shower curtain for a little while.
Right. Yes. 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 Definitely. Yeah. That's a great place to be in because see, like I was a breaker. Like I'll break all of this shit in here. I don't care. So I love that they now have societally accepted places to do that. I was definitely the person like I'm gonna throw out all your shit. Like, oh, we're not doing dishes. Pass, no, breaking all of them and they're going in the trash. And like, and as good as that felt for me, you know, like my husband first witnessed it, and he's like, "What the hell? What is wrong with you? Did you
Boundaries.
know?"
I have boundaries. These are my
Yeah.
boundaries.
I'm like, oh, I thought nobody wanted to do the dishes, so let's go on and get rid of those, okay? Because I'm not. But it was like toxic as fuck, right? Like,
Yeah.
as healthy as it feels to me, or like my screaming. I was like such a huge screamer in my first marriage and with my first round of parenting, and it felt good to me. Like, but you don't realize the trauma you're putting everybody else through, right? You know, my kid is like, wow, this is huge and scary. You know, my husband's like, this person is a psychopath. You know, everybody's feeling violent but me. I'm feeling great because now I did it.
Right. I'm good. I let it out. Y'all
I
can
let
let
it
it
out. I
out
let
too.
it out. So it goes right back to those appropriate and healthy ways,
Right.
right? And how
Safe.
those white tears are not appropriate in a setting like when, you know, you're faced with an oppressed and more marginalized person or group than you are. Like, you are not safe. Now you just took, and I hear you and I understand your grief, madam, but you need to deal with that shit with your therapist and not here with me where
Yes.
I'm going to automatically look like the aggressor. Now you're dangerous, you know. Finding those healthy outlets and doing this work in those safe spaces, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And giving it language, right?
Right.
Like, yeah, no, I'm gonna go scream now. I'm gonna go
And that so
howl. And
beautifully ties it into the just being violent by existing. It's That's a concept that I've been obsessing over for the last probably 3 or 4 years because I am somebody who has frequently gone into spaces that were considered for women born women. So
mhm,
spaces that have this stench of transphobia on the and having trans women being like, I deserve to be here too. And before I realized I was trans, I was like, that's true. And there's a lot of people here with history of penises being violent against them. And I'm not saying all trans women have penises at
right.
this point, but that, you know, to have a space. So one of the festivals I used to go to was this Women Were Women thing. And they had a space in it that was the Women of Color tent. So there was a space where, unless you were invited in, it was women of color, period. You know, and so in my mind, like, is quote, woman born woman space um possibly necessary for some people to heal? Yes. And then we have to be willing to open the space up to, you know, trans women, non-binary individuals. I just helped there that that particular thing has ended. They're trying to make it more open, and they've decided that everybody's invited except for non-binary AMABs. And it's like, this isn't the like revolutionary meetup that you're trying to have. On the opposite end, I was a midwifery student for almost 5 years, just over 4, and there were actively trans men that were fighting language that was inclusive of themselves. I decided to be a man. I don't deserve to, you know, and then of course that feeds into the transphobia of so many of the midwives. You know, the midwifery is so racist, it's so transphobic, it's so homophobic, and it's just like, this is why there aren't midwives of color. This is why there aren't more trans midwives, whatever. And I am not a midwife, like I just did that portion.
Right.
But going from these opposite ends where one group is like, I should be included, and the other group is like, I shouldn't be included. It's this place. And then being a white person who often finds myself, at least pre-COVID, in spaces of where I am the only native English speaker, or at open mics where I'm one of the few white faces, or at gatherings where, again, I'm one of the few white people that has been invited. It becomes very clear when I am perceived immediate, because I'm a threat no matter what, just in existing because of my whiteness in our white society. Like, it doesn't matter if everybody else is happy with me being there, I have to acknowledge that. And to when it becomes a perceptible thing by other people, and I'm obviously making people uncomfortable, I need to be willing to step out of that space. I need to be willing to leave the gathering, or, if somebody requested that I come and say a poem, I'm not going to say anything beforehand, and I'm not going to say anything after, and I'm just going to cheer for the people, the other people performing or whatever. And as soon as it's over, I will leave, because people are obviously uncomfortable that I'm here.
I have a question for that.
Yeah.
So I think that's that's very self-aware, and thank you for doing that work and teaching other white people to do that work too. But so now, how does that look? Like, going back to what we were saying in regard to, in non-white spaces, white women can take up too much space, which is what you're discussing, right? Like, you go into an open mic, it's non-white people there, and as soon as you walk in, it's clear, it's obvious, because we are aware, even if us 15 invited you, we know that if we get too loud and rowdy and the police come, they're coming to talk to you. Like, right. And are you okay? You know what I'm saying? So like, yeah. You're a threat, period.
Yes.
So even if you are invited, but so where do you find the balance? Because I think that's a hard space, right? Like, so in a non-white space, white women take up too much space, but in their own homes and white spaces, they don't take up enough space. So
yeah,
guide me, Yoda.
I don't know that I'm the right person to ask for that. Like, I learned that people find loud laughter threatening because I'm a loud laugher. I, have over the years trained myself to not laugh as loudly, and I'm actually starting to just let it come again, because my cackle is wonderful.
I love it.
And it's such a stereotype. It's such a stereotype of, say, Black women that, loud laughter, loud voices. I am a loud person, always have been, always will be. Like, now I could be like, it's partly the autism. But in my family, men were allowed to cackle and genuinely belly laugh. And I was always hanging out with men. My dad would play poker. The first time I smoked a cigar was at 11 years old, sitting around with my dad and his brothers playing poker. Somebody had to hold it,
I love it. Just saying.
So I'm not saying don't, I'm not saying do that, but that.
Oh, I was definitely endorsing having fun with your kids. Maybe not the cigar.
Yes, have fun, but maybe don't hand them the cigar to smoke.
Maybe.
At 11.
At your own discretion. Yeah. We do not endorse smoking for children. Okay. Go.
I mean, legally, privately, but we're being recorded anyway. So there's so much, again, nuance to all the things.
Right.
That being said, I was allowed to embody that space. I was the only female invited to a certain special football game until they started inviting my cousins. And so, when you're the only socialized female in the group, there's 30 men or 15 men, they're gonna, make the comments, whatever, because they are the most comfortable, and so I learned to take up space. I have, though, struggled with so I started my business at 19. And so I didn't dye my hair until I was 27. I've dyed my hair, except for that chunk, since I was in middle school. I dressed preppier. I everywhere I went. And now I'm just like, fuck that. So it is a fine line, right? Because yes, I laugh loudly. Okay, so being a part of Clubhouse, we've had this discussion online, being a part of Clubhouse, people inviting me to speak, I'm the only white person in the group. laughing with people, fine. They love to hear the laugh. Okay. As soon as I say something, even if it's an agreement and it's just a real simple, like for real, right? And there's just this like energy, and it's like, oh.
Like, oh, I probably shouldn't have said anything.
Yeah. And so it's like, we need to learn to take up space in our homes. We need to learn to take up space in ourselves. And in that taking up of space, you know, it can be violent even in our own homes when it's new to us, right? Like, right. So I don't think I'm the best person to really delve into the like complexities of that nuance, because my abusive ex was terrified of my big laughter when we were in public. She refused to go to public with me. And the handful of times we went to one of my favorite spots, that was like a place that I felt very safe. I went there to nap, like in a little nook, like, and so I let myself laugh there, and she went in on me, just like, you're disturbing other people, like all the bullshit that anybody that laughs loud gets. Mm-hmm. And so just the awareness that like, oh, and also like my energy, I'm the type of person that like, I could be in a crowded room in the back corner with no light on me, wearing clothes that match the wallpaper, and I'm going to offend somebody.
Yeah.
Even if it's all white people, like just existing, my energy is that shifting. It's that in between. It's that, because I am most comfortable in discomfort. So that's right. The vibration that I find, right?
I like that. Yeah, I'm chaotic. I find comfort in chaos and the destruction. So people often get, like, how you were talking about like the violence. So like, I'm like the burn all this shit. And like, let's start again. Yes. And like, people are like, what is wrong? But I'm comfortable in discomfort myself. Like, I'm okay. Like, sometimes you just have to, you can't keep building a shitty house, on a terrible foundation, like, cause it's going to always be a shitty house. You need to just like blow it all up, maybe even buy some new land and start again. I don't know what to tell you, but like, that's just,
Yes.
That's kind of what it is.
So yeah, having that awareness of other people's energy is helpful. And just taking up the space that is offered to me in
like that. That's
situations. That's the best way that I know. And if nobody is like, this is the amount of space you can take up in either an energetic or obviously verbal way, I tend to just be, and it's one thing, for example, sitting around, everybody speaking Spanish around me, I understand more than I can speak. Yeah. But I have had so many situations where like, it's obvious what people are talking about, or sitting around people are speaking to Serbo-Croatian or Swahili or whatever. I've been in these situations where it's like, oh, y'all are talking about going to the strip club. Like, that was funny. And I laugh with everybody. And the whole group turns and they're like, how do you know what I just, because it's the energy, it's the body language, it's, right. And so it's like, because I'm aware of all these different aspects, I'm like, okay, I'm somebody, my stimming is dancing. I have music in my head at all times, and I will just dance up and down the aisles of the everything. Like, I'm sitting here just like twiddling my fingers as we talk, trying to be as still as possible, right? So I often have things in my pockets so that I can twiddle in my pockets if my dancing is too big for a crowd, or like whatever.
Those are some great tips right there, that even something that simple. Because like sometimes we don't even bring into the conversation neurodivergence, right? Yeah. Like that, again, it's back to these like releasing the dichotomies of everything. It's like, you're not taking in, the nuance is in healing. Like, there's zero way to heal without dealing with nuance. So it's like, yeah, maybe your energy is super big. Maybe you're dancing in the middle of the floor, not because you're white and want to be seen. Maybe you're just feeling this music and like, And this is the best way that it can move through your body. But then part of that ancestral healing and is learning like, okay, well, maybe in this space I don't
Mm-hmm.
need, because we know that the attention is going to go to me, and that's not what this moment is about. So maybe I just like kind of like flail in the corner a little bit, still
Yeah.
jam, but like not to do so in such a way like recognizing everybody's humanity in the space. And that pretty
Mm-hmm.
much, for me, that makes sense, because like I do that with I have
Yeah.
huge energy. And I worked with other healers that they're at like simultaneously, that their energy, or we're in the same space, that their energy is not as big um
Mm-hmm.
on the scene. I'm not saying like, oh, my energy is bigger and better, but like they don't project their energy the way I do. Like I'm all in. I'm here. You see me moving. I talk with my hands, you know what I'm saying? Like facial expressions. I shift accents and voices and sounds. I am like that, I embody it all. And
Yes.
but their energy is more, more channeled, more direct, more paced, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
And in those spaces, I shut up.
Mm.
I just shut up. I'm like, and it's okay. And not because I'm intimidated, because I know that this is their space that they're holding,
Mm-hmm.
and they need to set that tone. And I know that if I jump in some type of way, I will disrupt the fuck out of that,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
now they're going to tune into my energy. Like I said, not lesser or greater, just a different frequency, like a radio, like, oh, 92.3 was on. I like that. But Des is jamming on 97.9. So let me get to that. And then that becomes disruptive, and I think about that, like going back in my life as a child, like, right, I was always disruptive. I was the one who disrupted the class. And I'm like, so you can't talk? Like, what world are we in? Like, I laughed. I'm so sorry that like
That was funny.
you couldn't get it back together, almighty teacher. Like, what kind of leader are you? Um, so yeah, no, I think that actually you answered that perfectly. It's just about energy, really,
Yeah.
and just like, what is this space, and being aware. But then again, circling back, that takes that self-healing, that
Right.
self-awareness. And if you're not taking up space in your own life, in your
Mm-hmm.
own healing, you can't be astute enough in your awareness when you're elsewhere. So you're just fucking throwing energy everywhere, and you can't even control yourself.
Nope.
um I often compare white women and femmes, and I hate it, but like to children. Like, but like, if not, my 5-year-old would kick the door open, do a tuck and roll, shoot me in the face with a Nerf gun, and then say, look at my dinosaur. With no awareness to the fact that I have a whole podcast set up, the
Yes.
laptop is in front of me, I am having a discussion. And if I tell him something, he's gonna cry or get upset.
Right.
And I find that energy is very much
Mm-hmm.
the same in a general way, obviously not every, but in a general way, to whiteness, in feminine whiteness, is the same similar energy. Like, you are not astute enough
Right.
in yourself to read the room.
Right. And even in the people who say energy is like the business they do, maybe they do like Reiki, which we can go to field appropriation later, or like
Yeah,
our quote light workers, which like gag me with a spoon,
that
or
part.
you know, or like any of the things where they've learned to direct some of their energy. Sometimes the again the nuance of how you direct your energy. Have you pulled yourself inwards first? um I met this man in New Mexico that his was probably the biggest spirit that I've ever experienced, and been able to palpably feel the edges of his spirit. But
Wow.
he didn't invade people around him with his spirit. It just was. And it kind of went around mine.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't immerse itself into mine. It didn't try to integrate. It didn't try, like, whatever, we're across the house from each other and I can feel you in the air around me, but you're not trying to force yourself into me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a big piece, that there are very few people that I work with that are in that place where they can, like, they're just learning how to, like, okay, let's name the emotions. That's a start. Now
Right.
you can name that you feel this way. Okay, like, I don't love NVC for a lot of reasons, nonviolent communication, but I do love their list of feelings and needs, because it differentiates, right? And so just being able to say, on the spectrum of happy, I'm feeling this,
Right.
that in itself helps us learn how to direct the energy. Well, I'm feeling grumpy, so I'm gonna, separate myself from my family, and I'm gonna shake this shit off. And sometimes it means literally I'm gonna go outside or in the shower and shake it and shake
Absolutely.
it, you
Absolutely.
know, and or like get a candle. I always have candle in every room. Yeah, my wife and I will have a candle in between us when we play a game. We love card games, we love board games, we love whatever, poker, it doesn't matter. And we'll put a candle in between us because we're gonna shit talk. We're gonna, whatever.
Yes.
And we don't want the other person to like receive those emotions in a way that's not fun and playful. And so if I'm feeling a little sore losery, then
Absolutely.
I'm definitely going to, have that candle there and be like, ooh, it's going into the candle.
Yeah, it's absorbing that energy, which is why I keep mine lit when I have like these kind of conversations and stuff, just so it's energetically holding the space of guiding the conversation, guiding the light. Like like I'm bringing it back to like the child energy, like, and I want to clarify for that because I don't want anyone to feel like I'm calling them children. Is what I'm saying is that because of the lack of generational healing and ancestral work, is that the truth of the matter is like white women, people, persons, non-persons as a group really are neophytes in the healing game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they just are. Like that's just, again,
we
a
have
truth.
been infantilized
Right.
for hundreds and hundreds of years, and that is how we've made ourselves safe, is by being seen as this baby thing. I think it's a perfectly reasonable metaphor, right? Like,
Thank you.
are we actually babies? No, we should have more responsibility. I also think that it harkens back to parenting. I'm a millennial. My parents are boomers. They had me late in life. And I can't say that either of my parents were taught how to parent because their parents weren't taught how to parent.
Oh yeah, they were just winging it, honey. I was raised by boomers who were raised by people out of the Depression, who were
Right.
then immigrants.
Right.
They were winging it, and all you hoped is that your kid survived. Like that was it. That was your greatest wish, was your kid didn't die.
Yes.
That was it.
Yes. If they didn't die in the first 5 years, and if they didn't starve to death afterward, golden.
Yep. We did it.
Isaiah
Chef's
didn't run over his sister with the tractor at 8 years old. Great.
Yeah.
They
were sending kids off on carts, like off on the train. Your 8-year-old would just go. Like I have a kid that I swear to God is my eldest used to joke, and she's like, that Erin, this is my 8, almost 9-year-old. She's like, she's like the kid you'd send away on a cart. On the train, and just like, well, she's off to New York now.
Bye.
And it's funny, and I laugh at that because this summer she actually left. My cousin was here visiting, and they drove back to New York, and Erin was like, I want to go, and me and my husband decided to like let her go on a whim, and then I just flew her back on a whim. It was not, the plan was that they would drive back down, but then life happens and they couldn't, and I just put her on a plane, and I was like, Erin is my box cart kid. Hopefully she makes it. I don't know what to say. What am I supposed to do here? I got 2 other kids at home. I can't get there to get her. Put her on a plane.
Yeah.
So like I could honestly look back and like, because of generational healing and ancestral things, like I can totally get it. Like they're probably like, yeah, like, well, they need to move on to the next town. There's better opportunities there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the reparentification, like the necessity of learning to parent ourselves, is so real. And, my parents did the best they did, just like every other person's parents, right? Like my mom worked sometimes 2 or 3 jobs because my dad wasn't great at keeping a job. She kept a roof over her heads. Dad did his thing. You know, unfortunately, I'm not talking to my dad, and it's, you know, I basically have my brother convinced for some reason that I like hate them, but I don't. It's sad. I see their pain. I feel their anguish. Um, and like, I am not going to continue trying to convince this person that Muslims are people, or etc. Go down the list. I'm not going to spend time with somebody who makes me want to unalive myself. Every time I see them, I walk away feeling suicidal. You know, and by choosing to step away from that, I've been able to forgive both of them.
Oh, it's a beautiful thing.
You
It's a
know?
beautiful thing. Like, I could love you from a distance. I tell people
Mhm.
and clients often, like, love and forgiveness do not require connection. I can totally, like you said, because I got myself out of the toxic situation
Yeah.
and doing this shadow work, doing this healing through I don't hate you. I just love myself enough to not subject
Right.
myself to it.
Right. And it's that willingness to end the pattern. And if I can't scramble the pattern when I'm around you, then I'm going to work on ending the pattern separate from you. So my grandma Sid, my dad's mom, like I mentioned earlier, um, I finally, when she would say something out of the box and just hateful for no reason, just like we were doing fine, 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 and then she spouts some hateful nonsense, I just started laughing like it was a joke.
Right.
And
Because
just
it
like
has
a
to be.
right, because like it is a joke to me. Like you think that you're telling me something about myself, and you're really not. Like,
Right. And that is the power of knowing yourself. That is the power of radical self acceptance. That's the power of shadow work and ancestral healing, is that you remove that need of external validation, right? And you just say, you know what, you are a joke, and what you have to say is a joke. And you know what, okay, grandma, I'm gonna leave now and I'll come back next week, right?
yeah,
Like, because like, I mean, I have people like that in my life, like, and I know everybody's huge on the cancel culture, and there are some people that you just totally cancel, like, and you should, like,
right.
that's a smart thing. But there are just some people that I chalk it up and I'm just like, they're gonna die soon. And like, that's like all I can do and deal with is like, like, that's the reality. They're gonna die
Right.
soon. I'm gonna enjoy the moments that I can enjoy with them, and I'm going to continue to do the work on making a better world for the future. I'm not working my way backwards, I'm working my way ahead. And I will do that energetic work outside of their presence if necessary.
And when their slightly younger neighbors are interested on, say, New Year's Eve, this situation happened actually the same New Year's that I got engaged. Um, so my dad's family has learned to not be racist around me.
Mm.
And one of his neighbors was over for dinner, and she asked a question, and my dad looked around at the table and said, "Here we go." And everybody got up, and she and I had the table for 2 hours.
Nice.
And by the end of it, using false equivalencies, unfortunately, this woman who was hardcore denying that racism existed was like, "Oh, racism exists. Do I think she changed any of her patterns, habits, anything of that nature? No, but I planted a seed."
I was about to say, but the seed is planted.
Right.
So even if it just makes them question
Yes.
differently, it's a paradigm shift. And it's not something that's going to be, it's so deep seated in the fabric of who we are as a country. Like, it's the foundation of the country. It is
Mm-hmm.
really hard, right? Like, to decolonize, like, everything. Like, that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yes.
not just like,
Yeah.
when I first started doing like anti-racist work myself and like unpacking my own racism, I was like, you start with small things, right? Okay, well, I guess I won't say that anymore. Or
Yes.
even like, like with the homophobia. We can't say that anymore. My daughter's like, you never should have said that. You never.
Yeah.
The fact that you said that and thought it was okay is probably the problem. And I'm like, oh, okay, fair assumption, fair. But like I just started trying to attack it in these small ways. Okay, well, I won't say that anymore. Okay, well, so we don't do that anymore. And it's like, no, it's so much bigger than that. It's like decolonize
All the
everything.
things. All the things.
Question everything.
Yes.
Where did it get its start? What everything needs to be, you need to come at it ready. Like, people are like, oh, well, teach me, I want to learn. I'm like, it's not about learning, it's unlearning. The
Well,
learning is
that's
what we
part of
did. We have
why
to
I
come.
say I'm racist, right? Because like conversations with that woman where if I can come to it from I'm racist, here are the ways in which I have started unlearning it.
Right.
Right? Suddenly I become more human to them. And I'm not calling them racist in that. I'm
Right.
saying I'm racist. So these are the things I've learned. Or my new favorite one is, oh, I think that you meant to say something else, because if somebody that wasn't me heard you, they might think that you're racist,
Well, that's a good one.
or we don't do that here.
Yeah.
Like,
Just that simple
you
too. But you see, it goes
right.
right back to that childlike energy. And like that is the work that it takes, right? Like that's like, like my son is very much involved with his genitals. And I'm like, we don't do that in the park, bud. Or like we don't talk to people about them. Like it's those are
Right.
yours. Like we don't ask people what they have, like well, he's older now. He's like, but like 3 and 4, he
Yeah.
wanted to know what everybody was rocking in their pants, and if maybe they wanted to see his too. I don't know. I was like, oh, okay, so this is very real with these penis-bodied people. Okie dokie. The obsession starts young, and so you have to, yeah, they have to unlearn all of that, and like that's what needs to be done. It is that unlearning. It is getting right back to recognizing that within the system of whiteness, white people, and it's hard because for so long white people have felt like the divine providence and the authority on everything. So to have to accept you are not the authority in this space.
Right.
You are but a neophyte in healing.
Yes.
You are just beginning the journey. Many cultures have been doing, the cultures that you colonized were doing this before you knew that soap was necessary for cleansing.
Yes.
Washing your hands before surgery, people have been doing this. So in this thing, you must accept that you are not the authority on
Mm-hmm.
healing. You are
Mm-hmm.
not the authority on anyone else's practices.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot be, because you have not even created your own healing practice.
Right.
You don't get to go into another space and take up that space
Right.
violently by telling others how to practice theirs,
Right.
or by co-opting it and now making it something yours. Like you said, gag me with the spoon with the light worker, or I took a weekend Reiki class and like now it's on, I'm going to heal you. And it's like, are you? Because
Right.
for generations, like they were Reiki masters,
Right.
coded into their DNA.
And it's so interesting as somebody, so again, as I mentioned in the beginning, like I was offered an opportunity to dip my toes in Hawaiian culture, and or really that's wrong, in Kanaka Maoli culture, and learning just some language, like blah blah blah, and having the teachers tell me that, okay, you've been doing this for 8 years now, you need to offer this, you need to literally offer lomi lomi, Well, I live in Charlottesville, Virginia. I can't. I
Yeah.
won't,
No.
because I'm not trying to colonize it. I'm a white person who did for many years because I was told to do this. And it's so socially pushed. When I explain to people why I stopped offering specifically Lumi Lomi, and what is Lumi Lomi if not alchemy? It's this combination, but it's from the Hawaiian healing perspective. And am I called to occasionally, say a specific prayer? Was I given permission to say very specific olis, which are chants that aren't danced to? Um, yes, I was given permission to say these very specific things in public or not in public. These other things I am not allowed to share with people. Okay. And from this long time, what do I call myself? Because you've seen my website. I offer so many things, and it
Yes.
seems like they're not connected, but they really all are connected. And traditional or temple Lomi, it could look like craniosacral or chiropractics or massage or myofascial or talk story, like you might need to find accountability and balance within yourself in situations, even when you weren't the one that did major harm. You may still need to forgive yourself for putting yourself in that situation or not setting boundaries, or maybe you need to find words to explain your bulimia to your family or whatever. I'm not going to call it Ho'oponopono. I'm not going to call it whatever, even though everybody is saying, yes, this is. No, I'm an alchemist, because it
Right.
covers all of these things and is like very much part of the mix of cultures that I, as a European mutt, am.
Right.
I've
And I
got,
love that. Sometimes it is just as simple as a language shift, which is why the pushback on certain things. Like, so I said, like with hoodoo, it is a practice that is for the descendants of slaves. Like, it's just, that's what it is. Like, and people will argue with you, like, it's not a closed practice because there's not initiation. First of
oh,
all, that is
there
a colonized view that you believe that there's some type of an authority that has to initiate you into every single practice.
right.
Are there practices that do that? Absolutely, because they've chosen to do that and then honor that. But not every single practice needs an initiation. And then, like for me, because I like to make things simple, I'm like, well, slavery is the initiation, babe. So if you
Ooh,
don't come from slaves, there you go.
yes,
Like,
yes,
you know what? I'll work with you where you're at. Like you said, you know what? Great. It needs initiation. Slavery is the initiation. Boom.
exactly.
And so like it comes like with, because then we have to remember like being in America, things homogenize and stuff. So like hoodoo is like that amalgamation of all of the things that was going on with Black America, right? Like, so like still keeping their practices from their native lands and tribes, and then like trying to disguise it underneath the guise of Christianity, and then their own languages and things. So like when you go, like obviously things are going to cross over, like when you said earlier with mirrors, you know I that works in hoodoo too. It also works in santeria, it also works in folk
Mm,
magic, it also works like
I didn't
there's
know.
going to be some things that are shared, but
Yeah.
it's language that's important. Like you said, like you may do Lomi Lomi, but does it need to be called Lomi Lomi by somebody presenting to the world like you in America? No. Maybe if you lived in, and I don't know how to say Hawaii properly in its proper native, but maybe if you lived in Hawaii amongst the people in the village and you offered it there in the presence of the people, absolutely. Because then we know that you received this gift from the native people of the land and they offered you to give that gift. That's different than you in West Virginia
Yeah.
doing Lomi Lomi, or like with honey jars. Those things are like specific with hoodoo.
Mm,
Now there's other things like, like I'm like, you can call it a sweet jar. Like this,
mm,
some things are so simple to just respect somebody's something.
yeah.
It doesn't take away what you're doing with it. It's just this
Right.
specifically was created for this with that language. Like
Right.
that language means something. Shift your language just a little,
Mhm.
call it a sweet jar, call it a sugar jar. I'm sure there's something in Appalachian magic that does the same thing. American folk magic that does the same thing. Like, and this idea that culture is supposed to be shared is only screamed from the people with no culture.
Right. Right.
Culture is shared when it's chosen.
Right.
But from the people that took it from everybody else, you don't get to say that culture is supposed to be shared, because that energy is exactly the healing that needs to be done, because that's what they felt too. That's generational trauma. That's general, generational um, healing that needs to be done, because it's coming from that. Like, oh no, you need to share your stuff with me. Okay, you don't want to share with me? I'm gonna take it and do it anyway.
Right. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
It's so powerful to see, because I know very little about hoodoo. In fact, TikTok has been teaching me so much. And I
TikTok is
love just
great.
learning about it, because there's like all these, cultural crossovers. And if I learn about something, let's say the use of white sage, um, you know, I was gifted years ago, before I knew white sage was even endangered, let alone before I knew that the indigenous peoples of Turtle Island are requesting that we not use it. I was gifted blessed sage that, because I have learned, you know better, you do better.
Right.
So I will never again buy it.
Right.
And I know that when I use it, it is a very special thing. And I need to give gratitude not only to the plant, but to the ancestors of this land, which I do anytime I do ceremony anyway. But to really acknowledge the specialness that an indigenous person gifted this to me, and
Right.
that I had no idea when it was given to
Right.
me. And so to really use it with consciousness and with consideration is so important. And I have had people go, oh, like, we were just talking about how I'm not supposed to be buying white sage, and you've got this container of white sage on your altar. Like, that's hypocritical, right? Like, yes, and
Right. It's back
I
to the
don't know.
nuance.
Right, right. If I knew somebody, because that person gifted it to me, they left my life, as many magical people seem to do, right? They come and they go very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
If I am given an opportunity to give it back to an indigenous person, and they are willing to receive it from me, in a heartbeat. And
Right.
until then, I will honor it and use it with such careful intention. And yeah,
I agree with that. I personally was sorry. No, I cut you off. Go ahead.
I just that I've noticed that. And again, like, speaking about ancestral work as a white person, I try to be very, very careful with the words that I use, because I have been blessed with people who are not my blood ancestors being part of my guides at this moment. And sometimes people
That's
come and
beautiful.
go, and it's a huge responsibility. I mean, who and to honor and not disrespect, and then learning, oh, that thing is disrespectful, like to have one of my guides does not, like, I do not cuss when I'm talking to them. I've got guides that, like, think it's hilarious,
Right.
so it's like, okay, I'm going to be very clear, like, your altar is here, I'm not going to cuss in the direction of your altar, like, I'm going to, whatever. And just to, like, and I don't, I'm a little nervous mentioning that on a podcast, because, like, this is not a thing that I publicly speak about. Like, I don't publicly talk about the fact that there are ancestors helping to guide me that are not my own, because that would make a lot of people mad, and probably will upon hearing this. And I
And
am
that's okay. I think that,
sorry.
first of all, for clarity in that, I think that what people need to recognize is that our spirit guides are not just our ancestors. So that's
Right.
something that's important.
Right.
There's a distinction there, because I don't want people to listen and think like, okay, well, dope, I can go and like pray to these people's ancestors. No, do your own fucking work is the entire point of this podcast. But what it is that, like, there's layers and nuance to even in your healing. So when you're working ancestrally, that's your direct lineage, right? Like, you're going to start with like those 4 people that make you, like, your genetics. Like, when you go and do your 23andMe and all that kind of stuff, I think it's like your 4 grandparents or something. Like, that's who you are. You are
Yes.
literally like those test results are from your 4 grandparents. Your parents aren't even in there, I don't think. It's weird. It's some type of weird, wonky thing. Anyhow, so you're dealing with those direct lineages, and that's ancestor work. Spirit
Right.
guides are just like a pantheon of people that are like, oh no, I'm gonna come in and work with you because I like the work that you're doing.
Right.
And that's going to be intersectional. Spirit
Right.
guides are definitely going to be intersectional. They're going to come in and be like, ooh, you're doing tap into this energy right here because this person has this reach. So that's for the clarity there. So nobody, if they're going to get upset, they're going to get upset. But at
Yeah.
least for the clarity to understand, your direct ancestral work is lineage, your blood connection lines. Your spirit guides are people that energy that decides to work with you. You don't
Right.
even call upon them unless you open yourself up and say, hey, I open myself for my spirit team to come in, or my spirit guides, or guide me spirit. But this is not you deciding to go work with other people's ancestors. There is
Right.
a line. There we go.
Point blank period. Yes.
That part. No, do not.
TWAVE. Sorry.
We're trying to help here. We're trying to help. We're trying to help. Do not do that shit. The work that I do when I do intersectional
Mm.
healing work and intersectional any work, like all of my work is intersectional.
Mm.
So, and I tell people it's accountability and all the way through, right? Like it's not like I'm sorry, but no, no,
Mm-mm.
no.
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm. Hold the accountability all the way through. So I asked you, how do you make shift happen in your own life? And you said accountability in all things, boundaries. I love boundaries. Like they're my jam. Good fences make great neighbors. Like, authenticity. Yes, absolutely. Recognizing biases and learning about them, unlearning the harmful and re-educating myself, holding folks around me accountable, offering healing work, mutual aid, and education for those who seek understanding. And it was like when I read that, I realized that you are definitely on my frequency and connection space. I was like, I could not have written that any better. I may actually steal it and
Good.
add it into my bio somewhere because it makes so much sense. And and that's what it is. It's accountability the whole way, recognizing who you are, how you show up in the world, because there's so many truths, right? And it goes back to releasing dichotomies, releasing constructs, releasing binaries. How you are perceived in the world may not be you, but you need to recognize all of those intersections. The way
Right.
that you're perceived in the world is going to matter on how you carry yourself. And the way you know yourself is going to be how you deal with that perception. That's the
Right.
key. Like, I don't argue with people as much as I used to because I recognize I was arguing from a space of trying to make them understand me. And I'm like, you don't have to understand me. I understand me. I'm
Yeah.
no longer in a defense mode. Like I said, I will look at somebody who thinks that, because I show up racially ambiguous. I'm not phenotypically what the world says is a Black woman. So I show up as racially ambiguous. So when somebody says, I love your hair. What are you? And I say I'm Irish. I don't have to explain that.
Yep.
I
Yep.
don't. I don't, because I'm just as Irish as I am Black. I don't need to go into anything. I've decolonized my own mind from white supremacy. I am not just Black because of some weird one drop rule that held up white supremacy. I'm Irish because I grew up with an Irish mom, grandma, aunts, cousins, and had Irish culture my entire life. Like, I am no less Irish than any other Irish American here. I'm probably more so because I'm the only second generation. Some of them been here since 1700 and don't know
Right.
what the fuck is going on in Ireland. But anyway, I digress. Or any of that. But it's that, right? Like, and then that goes back to what you were saying, authenticity. And then the boundaries, I don't need to explain that. You can go Google it. You know what? Go Google, are there Black Irish people? Like, I met a girl who looked Black and said she's Irish. Google. It'll be fun. See what you come up with. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. And then the same for me. Like,
TikTok.
yeah, go on TikTok. You'll figure it all out. Everything's on TikTok now.
Everything.
Yeah, I love TikTok. And
You
then,
just
like, I
can't
did the same
like
thing.
white creators stuff, or at least for me, my thing just goes like as soon as I like 3 white creators at all. It's like all white people. I'm just like,
Oh
what?
yeah. Yeah.
What?
I literally had to stop liking, and I like some of them, but then it just feeds you. And like some things are definitely an algorithm, some things again it's and because and nuance, and some things are just sheer numbers, right? Because it's
Mhm,
percentages. Like if there's
mhm.
20,000 white creators on TikTok and 5,000 black and 3,000 this and like by
Right,
sheer numbers, if you like 3 of them, well you're gonna see more of them because there's more of them there. Some of it
right.
is just like not that but like when you were talking about the Lomi Lomi and the Hopono, how do I say that?
Ho'oponopono.
Yep, that. Uh, I do not like to slaughter people's languages. I do not do that.
Respect.
Um, and I get this on my feed in Facebook and it bothers me, right? Like I've literally like learned this practice that you just said. And I'm like, no, why are you even giving me this? This is it. You're doing this and this is what happens. They go on, they learn it online and now they think that they could practice it. And there is a, 2 white women on TikTok that are like indigenous people and Hawaiian people are like, stop this.
Yeah, I've
You're
seen that.
not even using the language. Like, and you have to understand that. Like, you need to decolonize your magic. You need to decolonize your practice. Like,
Yeah,
certain things aren't even working for you because you're not even saying it right. Like,
true.
I've even gotten so far away from saying, I don't even say I'm doing yoga anymore
Right.
because yoga is an entire lifestyle and an entire practice that does not belong to me. I'm stretching. How difficult is that to say?
How hard, right? Like,
It's I'm doing breath work. It's so easy to say that instead of yogic breathing, like breath work.
so easy.
I'm doing intentional body movement. There's a million different ways to say it, and I'm saying like I no longer say chakra because chakra was never right anyways. It's chakra and I can't even say that properly. So I hate tearing people's language up, you know what I'm saying? So
Yes.
like energy centers. It's so simple to decolonize your magic and be respectful. I'm not running around here, namaste. That's not even how you say it. It's not carrying the right energy. You're not just stop.
Yes.
It's so simple to just stop. And if we just stop and focus on ourselves and getting deep into a deep knowing of self,
Right.
doing the shadow work of pulling up all that you suppress, because you'll recognize that the person that's before you is a suppressed being. And
Mhm.
that person that is inside that you pushed down is really who you are. And that person is probably really great, that has
Mhm.
some really real lived truths. But because you're showing up in the world so superficially,
Right.
from suppressing all the things so you could be palatable to another, you can't do anything authentically. And
Yeah.
everything you do is shit because you're not your true self. You're
Yeah.
not doing the work. You're not healing generationally. And then you're just perpetuating that for the next generation. And then the victimhood that's like, but I'm a good person. You are probably a great person, but you're not doing the inner work. And that's the most important.
Right. Yeah, that lesson was so driven home to me a few years ago. I hung out with a group of burners. And when I started hanging out with this group, I noticed this guy that I knew had had his massage license taken away because he was inappropriate with his clients. 2 years. And I went around to like a handful of people, said, do you know this? Do you know this? Everybody I spoke to knew that. So I was like, I'm not going to go around to everybody in the group. I'm just going to make sure that like he's not alone with people. I'm not alone with him. Like it almost made me feel safer with him because I knew where the line was, right? I
Right.
knew he is a rapist. When it came out that not everybody knew that 2 years later, and it was amazing because I, over the 2 years, watched this man be very generous with his time and his skills. He helped people with everything from building things to plumbing to gardening, like very generous with his time. And also, he's a rapist.
Right.
And I know of at least 50 people that he has touched inappropriately in some way. We can't, when he was literally saying, yes, I've done these things, yes, I'm this person, the person he had been living with said, no, you haven't, you lived with me, you didn't do that to me. That's not how it works, but it's a very good metaphor for this process of unlearning these harmful binaries and harmful habits, right? Because you lived with me, you didn't touch me inappropriately. And it wasn't
Wow.
until one of her friends said he raped me that she then got mad about it. And they were talking about doing this restorative justice thing, blah, blah, blah. That's fine and dandy, but he didn't want restorative justice. He wanted the empathy from his own history of childhood abuse. And for him, that meant seeing the same emotion on people's faces, which is
Right.
messed up on so many levels. But again,
So
I
many.
spent 2 years watching him go out of his way, bend over backwards to help this community. And just wild. And of course he didn't want to change anything, and they just like kicked him out of the group. And like, now all I can do is scream his name at the top of my lungs anytime he walks into a place. He walks into a restaurant and I'm like, oh, hey, there's a here, I don't want to sit next to him. Does that mean that he's never done any good in life? No. He's done a lot of good, he's done a lot of bad.
Right. So in closing, because I feel like we can just continue this conversation, which I'm enjoying, and may split into 2 parts. But I wanted to ask you, my last question was, if you could step into my shoes, what would you have asked of yourself that I did not ask?
I would ask myself, or anybody else that you talk to, really, like, what ways do you like reinvigorate, rejuvenate, like filling your cup? Like, I think that we talk a lot about pushing things out of us, but we don't ever discuss the fact that we need to fill the new spaces, right?
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is. So, do you have an answer for how somebody
Um,
would rejuvenate themselves, or at least find the way? Because for everybody, it's not going to be the same.
right. For me, I am very clear after any ceremony or sessions with people, or any time that I have um, released anything emotionally myself, and doing the ancestral work, I make sure to go to the bathroom. So water in, water out, right? I like to use water to wash my face, my hands. I put it on my pulse points, and sometimes I'll put it on my head and my feet, just to kind of give myself that clearance, to separate from the energy before. And from there, just good food, good water, and like finding inspiration and hope these days is so challenging. So for me, some days my only inspiration is spite, or like some days it's like my only inspiration is seeking hope, right? Like,
I
I
like
know
that.
I want to feel hope. So if I look for it, I might find it.
That is really very practical. I myself am I wind up chugging tons of water
Mm,
with energy work.
mhm.
Even like with this conversations, like tons of water, you
Yes.
kind of chug and you like you said, water in, water out. Also for me, I seal my circles or conversations with a stomp, a clap, a snap of the hands,
Mm,
something to kind of like bind it and close up that
mm,
sacred space that was held. And I rest. Unapologetically, I rest.
mm.
And I think that not enough of us do that. Like, you know what? Find the space, create the space for you to just rest and ingest the work that you did do and take it
Yes.
easy. Like, just, it's
Love.
okay. It'll move through its own self. So
Yes.
I like that. And I've enjoyed this conversation. And I feel like I would like to have you back on because I wanted to discuss the dichotomy of good and evil.
Yeah.
And that is going to be great with you. But I also want people to be able to find you. So, where could they find you when they go seeking?
People can find me online, on Instagram. I'm dope ass witchy Graham. I haven't been very prolific on there. And then my business's name is Alchemists Trading Post. And my website is alchemisttp.com. And so there's good stuff there. I have a Facebook page that's Alchemists Trading Post. And I think it's at Alchemy for Humanity if you're looking for the at. Yeah, that's where you can find me.
Awesome. I hope people seek you out because you are doing huge, huge work here and it's super necessary. So thank you for making shifts happen in the world and thank you for being here on Let's Have the Conversation.
Thank you so much. This was a blast.
It was, wasn't it? Okay. I could